Right, friends, come on. So let's get started. Let's get started. Let me check here. Okay, all set, friends. Can we move on? All set? Right? Good. Good. That's very nice. Okay. Now, see, we have learned two things out here, two major things out here. One is I don't want to test any Spring components, and I want to just simply test normal classes which are not Spring components, which is in that case just need to say at the rate test, and whatever you want to write, whatever you want to test, you can test that. But if you want to test the logic that you have implemented, any logic, it can be presentation logic, it can be, we will come to the specific things about the presentation logic later, but then when it comes to testing your services, testing your DAO classes, testing your repository, then in that case you will have to start the Spring container. Yes, friends, you will have to start the Spring container. All there with me? Very interesting things coming ahead, friends. A new topic is coming ahead. Yes, you promise you all will give me undivided attention and you will listen to this very carefully. Your career is dependent on this. They will not accept that you do not understand and you do not know this when you go to your real life projects. You promise? Type PROMISE, promise. You're going to give me undivided attention and feel free to ask whatever questions you may have. Right? Good. And feel free to ask whatever questions, however small, trivial, foolish you may think your question may be. No question is foolish. Please feel free to ask. Now understand this. So when it comes to a large application, you have got several classes to be tested. You have several components to be tested. And you've got components like, you've got components like, for example, you've got service classes. Now I'm making blanket statement. I'm not specific to customer or product or invoice or whatever. I'm saying you have to test your service classes. You have to test your, DAO classes. From the DAO class, you may, want to test the repository also. I mean, DAO classes, then you have repositories as well. Correct? So if you want to perform a test, right? If you want to perform a test such that if there is one service invoked, for example, in our case, the name of the service was get customers. If this is one service that is invoked here, this in turn makes a call to another service, again, which is get customers here in the DAO class. So this makes a call to this, correct? And then in the repository, I'll say repository, right? You have yet another method here called find all on the repository. Come on, yes or no? You have find all in the repository. All agree? Correct? So you tell me, if can't I write a test case which will test only and only find all of the repository? Possible or not? What I mean to say is that instead of saying customer DAO test, can't I write Java class, can't I write customer repository test? Can I do this? Right? And then here I say, right, I'll write at the rates. Okay, will I have to write at the, and you've got to be very fast. So please keep your hands on the keyboard. Do you think I have to write at the rate Spring Boot test? If I want to test at the rate, I'll say auto wired, and I say customer repository, and I say repository, I say customer repository. Do I have to give at the rate Spring Boot test, or it will do? I have to, isn't it? Otherwise, how will it start a container and how will it inject the dependency of customer repository, isn't it? And then whatever test case I want to write over here, I will write test case, and I'll say public void. I'll say when find underscore all, then return underscore customers. Okay. And then what will I do over here? I'll say customer repository dot find all, isn't it? Correct? And I will do the testing work. You know now, I'm going to use a search and whatever. So this will be tested. So when I'm testing find all, only and only the code of repository find all method is tested. Yes? Yes, friends? Okay, so only this will be tested. Perfect, very nice. But if I test this, if I use @test, and if I use customer DAO test rather, and if I say customer DAO test, and if I start testing the methods of the DAO, then in turn, don't you think both the things gets tested? Get customers also gets tested, and it also tests. Both the things are tested, yes or no? Because get customers in turn will end up making a call to. Very clear? Both of these things will be tested. Right. Both the things will be tested. Oops. Okay. So both the things are tested. Correct? And if at all I write a test case for the service, so if I write the test case for only and only find out, so let me move this down. Okay, I may have written a test case for customer repository test. So only and only find all will be tested. Needless to say, only and only find all will be tested. But in this case, get customers as well as find all. Now, if I write instead of this, if I write customer service test, and if I invoke get customers of service, then that in turn will make a call to what? Come on, tell me. Get customers of the DAO, and which in turn is going to make a call to, find all method. So if I'm testing this, then all the three are getting tested, yes or no? Come on. All the three are getting tested. Very good. Correct. So here it's only this that is getting tested. Here it is this that is getting tested, and here it is getting all the three that is getting tested, which is okay, which is cool. But here in this case, it's beautiful, it's nice, and in some cases I may really wanted this. But what happens is, in real life, it may so happen that one particular program is not writing that end-to-end thing, services in the DO and the repository. It may so happen. You may organize and you may structure and you may assign the tasks in such a way that one person does the entire layer for a given service. For example, someone is supposed to write product, then he writes product service and the product DO and the product repository. If someone is supposed to work on customer, then customer service, customer DO and customer repository. Someone on invoice, so invoice service, invoice. So that person will write all of these test cases and he will test right from the service. That's okay. But it's not necessary. It's not necessary. And your entire test of get customers here in the service class is dependent on the working of the DOA, which in turn is dependent on the working of the repository if you test the whole thing. Here like this. And even if you test from here onwards, then in that case you end up testing two things. And in some cases, I repeat, I'm making that point. In some cases, you really do want to do that, so that's fine. But then in some cases, you want to test a DAO all by itself. I repeat, you wanted to test the functionality of the DAO class all by itself. You got that? And you do not want the DAO to be dependent on the repository and the working of the repository. You want to test the service. You want to test the service. Just So coming back here, if it is a service, if it's a service, I may want to test each and every functionality of the service. That means all the code that I have written in that service. I repeat, I want to test all the code that is written in that service only, without that being dependent on the implementation of the DAO. Correct? I may want to do that. And why do you really would want to do that? There are several reasons. I hope you are all there with me, friends. You are all there. You know, this passion of software development, we all have that passion. Even you all have that passion. Even I have that passion. But our passion gets wings. Note my words. Our passion gets wings when someone appreciates our work. You agree? You may be a good dancer, but no one appreciates. I mean, there is no one to appreciate it. No one appreciates it. Okay, you love dancing, you might still dance. But when people appreciate, you get wings. Your dancing skills get wings. Isn't it? It was the year 1999 when I had visited Dubai and I had developed an application for Levi advertising. Whatever skills I had at that point of time, just 6 years, 5-6 years of experience, and I had developed that application in Power Builder. Power Builder was like, Visual Basic. You might have heard of Visual Basic. It was a development tool, and I was there for the entire duration of that software development, and I delivered it. And as I went on showing them, see, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing. Towards the end of the whole thing, they made a statement. They said, Shakir, we are thrilled. And that was such a, I started flying in air. Felt so good and felt so great. And I was like, and then on the last day when I was coming back to India, I was on a high. I was like, Satve Asman pe we call it. I was feeling so proud. Right? So we get wings. And people start appreciating your skills. So you must deliver software solutions which will thrill your customers, which will thrill your stakeholders. That's how you must develop software. That's how you must deliver your software. Correct? So coming back to the point, there are several reasons here why you may want to test only and only the functionality of this of service in isolation without being dependent on the implementation of DAO. Similarly, you may not be interested in the implementation of repository, and you may want to just simply test the implementation of the functionality and test the functionality of the DAO class. Right? Maybe you would want to do that. And I am talking about service DAO repository. Service DAO repository. Of course, there are controllers as well. We will come to controllers testing later. But it's quite possible that the service may be making a call to another service. Possible. Maybe service may be making a call to 4 or 5 DAOs. Possible. Come on, yes or no? Can one service make a call to multiple DAOs or not? Yes. One service may end up making a call to several DAOs, isn't it? Very much possible. Very much possible. And you would want to test the functionality of that service in isolation. Why? I said several reasons. One big reason is you do not want to, in order to test one single functionality or rather functionality of one single component like a service, you do not want to start the entire Spring Boot container. I repeat, you do not want to start the entire Spring Boot container. Why? Because these test cases will be running in CI/CD. For each and every test case, if it starts the Spring Boot container, you can imagine the time it would take in order to test, run the test cases and then do a deployment. So there will be, the time that it would take to do the deployment will be higher. Come on, yes or no? The time that it would take to do the deployment through that CI/CD. You remember, right? We talked about that CI/CD. You remember this? No, I think it's here. Actually, this doesn't open multiple applications. Yeah, here itself, right on the very, yeah, I was on the same. So you see, this is the program, right? And just imagine here the Spring Boot container starting again and again for each and every test cases. Test cases, it isn't really good, makes sense, because there will be several test cases, isn't it? So it's going to take time. More bigger than this, much bigger than this, there is yet another reason. There is yet another reason. You want to follow, and this is what triggered that sharing of my experience with Levi Advertising and ad developed software 99 and all that story that I've given you is for this. When during those days this was not there, of course. During those days it was, we used to write all procedural code, but today if you know these things, you will have an edge over others and you will end up delivering state-of-the-art software. You will end up thrilling your customers, your stakeholders in your company. There is something called TDD that stands for test driven development. Repeat what it stands for. What it stands for? Come on, friends. What does it stand for? It stands for test driven development. Yes. It is expensive to develop test driven, to follow test driven development. The reason is that you want to make sure test driven development makes sure, now note my words, you may keep thinking how is that possible, but yes, it's very much possible, and I'm going to explain that to you. Inshallah, you will understand everything. I'm sure you guys are extremely brilliant, right? What does test driven development tells us? The principles of TDD is that you first write test cases, then write your actual code. Repeat this. What does TDD? What is the very defining and the most critical, most significant principle of TDD? What is it that you're supposed to write first? Come on. First write test cases. Correct. First write test cases. And when you write your test cases, since there is no code there, correct? First write test cases. It's going to fail. Come on, yes or no? You write test cases, and how would you know what kind of assertions that you are supposed to do in the test cases? How do you know, or how would you know that what kind of assertions when I'm saying you are first supposed to write test cases? So you start writing your test cases. What does this mean? You start writing your test cases here, isn't it? You have not yet written all your code here. You have just simply created classes, and that too you have just started with the very first class. Maybe you have just started with the service, maybe you have just started with the DAO, or you are given the responsibility to write just simply the DAO, or maybe you are given the responsibility to write just a particular service and you want to get started with the service. So you just simply create a class and you just simply create methods in those class without the body of the method. I repeat, without the body of the method. You have not written any body of the method. And now you want to write a test. So what will you be doing? You will first start writing the test cases here. So suppose you have a class to start with and you have to implement customer service. You know the contract of customer service. What do you mean by contract? You know the methods, but you don't write anything here. You don't write anything here. You just simply return null, 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 null. You just return null, empty body of the methods. Maybe then later on you come back and you write 5 lines, 10 lines, 20 lines, whatever. But all the methods that you wanted to define, because the moment you think of a service to implement, the moment you think of any component for that matter to implement, you know what is the functionality that it is supposed to offer. So you just simply define those method signatures. Do not write anything here at all. Before you start writing this, you must go and create a test case for that particular class. $1 million, friends. You write a test case and you write the real test cases, my dear friends. So for example, customer service test, you are supposed to write the real test cases here. And from where are you going to get real test cases? देखो कुछ लोग होते हैं सोचते सोचते लिखते हैं. There are some people who think while writing code. And there are some people who know, who have already thought and then they write code. They already know what their code is supposed to do. Why? Because in companies like PwC, you will always know. In smaller companies, they do not have that kind of luxury of following the processes. So it so happens, you know, I always tell new joinees in my company, I tell them, see, and my customers also, when I'm doing marketing and sales as well, I tell them that the only difference between me and IBMs and Wipros of the world is that in my company is that they have got 1 lakh square foot of space and I've got 1,000 square foot of space. Otherwise, the technology, the process, and everything that I follow is exactly the same. But usually in smaller companies, they do not have the luxury and the bandwidth to follow these principles. So what happens is that, even the requirements are not well written. I repeat, even the requirements are not well written. Correct. But we do follow that. I would like to, this is all learning. It's not that. I love to show, I love to, flaunt my skills and my processes and stuff. For example, see, my team is working on these are the current tasks of my team. Right? This is Tufail, this is Ajmal, this is Murli, this is Shreya, this is Murli. These are the tasks in progress. We follow the process. These are the tasks that are open that they are supposed to take from open tasks. These are the tasks that I have lined up for them, right? And then I prioritize, or they prioritize. If their leads are there, they prioritize. Leads will prioritize. Okay, these are the task priorities. So at the moment he's the guy who is supposed to implement this. If once this is done, he is going to just take another task from the open. So you follow this process and you will be able to do wonders. So coming back to test-driven development, TDD, test-driven development. What is it that you're supposed to do? First, you're supposed to write test cases. And from where are you going to get the test cases? You're going to get the test cases from the requirements document. You know in front of you that this is the user story that is there in Jira. Repeat, what did I say? User story in Jira. What is Jira? How many of you have heard of Jira? Come on, Jira tickets, Jira. Or you all know Jira or no? Okay, good, great, super. So you will get your user story in Jira, and there your tech lead or team lead might have defined that this is what you are supposed to implement. And when you know that is what you're supposed to implement, so the very first thing that you're going to do is that you come over here and you're going to write your test case. And in the test case, you're going to check that if I call the functionality of customer service, note my words. Customer service test is what I'm writing, so I'll write my test cases here, and here within the test cases I know if the functionality, if so and so functionality of my customer services is invoked, then this is what I am expecting. I will write that first. Once I have written this, what I've got to do then? See the fun here. If I have written my test case here, I'm done. I need to go back to my customer service. I will start implementing my methods, the body of the methods, and how do I test my method? Come on. Do I need to have a controller to make a call to the service and store something on HTML? That's how you think I'm going to test it? If I do that, I'm just good as a programmer for a roadside company, not for a real company. If I may be a naive programmer and still you can expect that from me, but then otherwise if I'm a real professional, you don't expect me, right? Come on, I hope you're getting where I'm coming from. Customer service is what I need to implement. I implement the functionality here. You expect me to must have a controller, must have a repository. When controller makes a call to the customer service, it will talk to the repository. Repository will talk to the database. So now again, come on, look, ek aur dependency aa gaya. What is a dependency? If my service needs to call a DO, DO is supposed to call a repository. Repository is supposed to call what? Use what? Come on. Invoke what? SQL statement on the database. So DB bhi chahiye na mujhe. I need database also, right? That means I cannot test my service till the time I do not have the database in place. Good or bad? Bad. And also I cannot trigger, because up till now whatever we have learned, this is how we have learned. From where did we make a call to the customer service? Tell me. From where did we make a call to the customer service? Come on, from where did we make a call to the customer service? From the controller. That means if I do not have the controller, how will I trigger the customer service functionality and how will I test? Good or bad? So if I have to follow the principle of test driven development, now note my words, $1,000,000, ऐसा आँख खोल के कान खोल के सुनो. Interesting stuff. If you want to follow the principle of test driven development, and if you want to deliver state of the art software, then you must have a mechanism to test the functionality of each component all by itself without it being dependent on the other components, without being dependent on the fact that the DAO has been already implemented or not, whether the repository is already there in place or not. You must not be dependent on that. So if that is the case, if I want to test the service without the dependency of, without the implementation of DAO, I want to test the DAO without the implementation of customer repository, okay, of the repository. If I want to test any one of these classes in isolation, then don't you think, see the word that I'm using, don't you think I will have to mock the dependencies? Come on, yes or no? Come on. If I want to test this in isolation, don't you think I will have to mock the DAO? Service may be dependent on the DAO. There is a dependency. But I do not want that dependency. So if the DAO is not yet implemented, it shouldn't happen that I cannot test my service. Right? If my repository is not yet implemented, it shouldn't mean that, I must not be able to test my DAO. So given a component, and here see we are talking about 3 components, the layers are always these 4 layers. You've got the controller layer, you've got the service layer, you've got the DAO layer, and you've got the repository. That's fine. But then otherwise, these layers still remain the same, but you may have many other classes talking to each other. This one service may talk to, yet another service. This one service may talk to 3 or 4 DAOs and so on. So there is so much of dependency, but I must not be dependent on the full-fledged implementation of DAO. I will test DAO also all by itself in isolation, but when I am testing service, it must not be dependent on the DAO. You got that? So in test driven development, I must be writing the test cases first, and if I have to write the test cases first, there will be dependency. The component that I am testing may be dependent on the other components, and those components may not have been implemented yet, so I must be able to mock those components. Come on, repeat. Please type it out. What is the term that I have used? I must be able to mock the components. Correct. I must be able to mock the components. Correct. Exactly. Super. So, must be able to mock, right? So these guys, PhD guys, expert guys, these experts in the industry, we are the ones who are experts in building business applications, and we use these frameworks. We are not the ones who build these frameworks. There is a different breed and a different class of people who build frameworks. So they have built a framework called Mockito Framework. Please repeat. What is the name of the framework? What is the name of the framework? Mockito. Yes, Mockito. Correct. Exactly. And you will see, as I had said earlier, I will come to this later on. If you have included your Spring Boot starter test, yes, very good. If you have included Spring Boot starter test, it brings up the core JUnit test library. Can you see this? This is the core library for JUnit test. Also at the same point of time, it brings for you in your application Mockito Framework as well. You're getting the point? You're getting your Mockito Framework as well. So what is this Mockito Framework? What are you expecting from this Mockito Framework? Come on. A simple one-liner statement. Come on. What is it that you're expecting? It will help you to do what? It will help you to mock the components. Yes. You're right. Isolation is also correct, Rakesh. It will help you to test each component in isolation, but it will also help you to mock the other components. And mocking, you understand, right? Mocking, usually we say making fun of someone. So that's not actually, mock is not necessarily making fun of someone. Mock is mocking someone. Like if someone does like this, I'm also going to do I will do the same thing, So I hope you're getting the point. Mocking. Mock. Tease or laugh. This is what, but otherwise make something seem laughable. Mimic something, right? So it's not authentic or real, but without the intention to deceive, right? Mocks, mock examinations and stuff. So you know what are mocks, isn't it? Right? You understand exactly the literal meaning of the English term mock. Okay, so I am keeping this, as a very separate thing. So we have talked about this, my dear friends. We have talked about this part. Okay, we have talked about this. Okay, then we okay, then we talked about this. Okay, now this is what we are talking about. This is what we are talking about now. Test driven development is what we are talking about. Very important stuff. So let's see, how do we do this now? See, it's all about understanding the fundamentals and understanding the internal things, which I've explained, tried my best to explain. But then rest of the things, it's huge. Mockito Framework, we can spend 3 days only on Mockito Framework, 3 full days on only and only Mockito Framework. But that's not what we are expected to do. This is a fast track program. Right? This is not what we are supposed to do. So I will set the stage in such a way that you will be able to pick up the rest of the things all on your own. I repeat, it's huge. You can do wonders. You can do loads of things in Mockito. There are hajar things that you can do. You can have very sophisticated unit test cases written. But I'm giving you things enough for you to get started with Mockito. In your real life projects, it will be cakewalk for you to further your skills and enhance your skills on Mockito as you keep on writing code. Okay, so I want to do what? I want to start writing test case. But I will write a test case for service. I'm going to write the test case for the service, but using Mockito. So I'll say Java class. I'll say customer service test using Mockito, for the sake of clarity, so that when I push the code, that this is what you can expect. Let's go step by step. So what is it that I want to test? Which component I want to test? Come on, friends. I want to test customer service. And what are the two benefits that I talked about, friends? One is that TDD is one benefit, A, TDD. So I'll write benefits A, TDD. B, alright, you are not dependent on the entire Spring container. In fact, you test this in isolation of Spring container. You don't even need a Spring container. As in case of service test and all over here, this we are dependent on Spring Boot test. Why? Because it needs to start the container, or else how would it inject it? How would it inject the dependency? Correct? But here we are not dependent. So I'll say customer service. If I'm not dependent on the Spring container, do you think @auto-wired will make sense? Do you think @auto-wired makes sense, or is it needed? When I'm not going to start the container at all, how come auto-wired? How come the container creating the instances of the dependencies and injecting it? There is a question here, right, of auto-wired. There's no question here of auto-wired. So what I'm going to do is I want to test customer service. But customer service, when I test, and I will write something like this, public void when _get _customers_, then I'll say customer _list, or I'll say then return customer _list. This is the test case that I'm going to write, and I want to fire a function service.get customers. Get customers, and what I end up getting here is the list of customers is equal. This is how it is, right? Import class and import class. So far so good. And this is supposed to be @test case. This is going to be test. You got that? So if I run this as it is, do you think I'm going to get anything here, or this is going to throw a null pointer exception? Only this is the only thing that I have written up till now. I have not used Spring Boot test. I have not used Mockito. I've not used a Mockito. I'm going to get a null pointer exception. Let's see. Let's get that exception. Yeah, I'm going to get null pointer. You see this here, null pointer, because this is null. You see this line is null, service is null. So what I'm going to tell you, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to tell my test framework, hello, please mock it. Please mock this. And then when I come over here, I will write asserts, assert dot is true, right? I'll say customers dot size is equal to greater than 0. If it fails, then in that case, customers must be greater than 0. Okay, this is what I have written. Perfect. But this test case is going to now see what happens with this test case. What happens with this test case? See this. I will click here and I say run. First of all, tell me, are you expecting a null pointer exception, or because of this @mock, you expect your framework to instantiate this class for you? What do you think? Come on, what do you think? Now, will you get a null pointer exception, or do you expect as a result of that annotation @mock, it will expect you to instantiate it, isn't it? But for mocks to work, I will have to run this with extend with. If at all you happen to work with some old versions of Spring Boot applications in PWC, or previous versions of Spring application in PWC, legacy version, maybe some written some 4-5 years back, it's quite possible that you do not have JUnit 5 framework. You may still have JUnit 4 framework. If that is the case, just remember, instead of @extend with, you will find something called @run with, which you are not going to get here. That is removed in JUnit 5. As a replacement of it, they have given you something more powerful. What that more power is, leave that aside. So extend with, I will say Mockito extension. This is what we are going to use, dot class. This is what I'm going to use. If it was JUnit 5, then you will use Mockito JUnit runner class. This is what you're going to use. But of course, we are using the latest version. It's JUnit 5, and that I hope you will remember. If it is JUnit 4, the previous version, this is what you will use @run with, and this is the class. But otherwise, extend with Mockito extension class. Clear so far? Now I'm going to run this code. So of course, I don't expect a null pointer exception here now. But I see that the customers must be greater than 0. That means my assertion has failed. Can you see this? My assertion has failed. Take a look. Obviously, it is going to fail. It is going to fail for sure. Correct. Exactly. Achha, tell me one thing. What do you expect? It does execute. It is executing this particular function or not? Is this getting executed or not? Okay. As out, I'll write get customers method in customer service is executing. Okay, is executing. So when I click over here, okay, and when I click here, and once again if I run this, you see that will actually execute. What does that mean? It is executing. Okay, it is executing. Customer service system.out.println. This is what I have written over here. I'm in customer service, and I did mock this customer service, and let me execute this now. I must be able to see that. list of guest customers, and I did do this, and I did write SOP here, and okay. Nevertheless, no problem. Why it did not? Because it just created a mock, and it did not find the dependency. I repeat, it did not find the dependency here. Okay, it did not find, because here you see there is a dependency here. It does make a call in turn to the DAO, so the DAO is not there at all. Illegal, that's the same thing. Okay, just anyway, I'll get that for you. Don't worry. I think I'm missing a point here. No problem. No problem. But we are going cool. Okay. So see this. I'm going to go back here. But yes, one important point. Anyways, we are supposed to proceed further with this. This customer service is dependent on customer DAO. See, what are the dependencies of this customer service? The dependencies is customer DAO. Am I right? And in this function, you are using customer DAO dot get customers, isn't it? So here also it may create an object of customer automatically, but then that returns nothing to you. It gives you 0. So what I will have to do is that I will have to write here customer DAO also. Why? Because there is a dependency here. I'll say customer DAO and I'll say customer DAO. And then here I will say @mock. You know, when I say @mock over here, this is so far so good. But then I want to tell the framework that customer service is dependent on other objects like customer DAO, and when you see that this customer service is dependent on any other object which I have already mocked out here, you better inject the dependency. So in customer service, the dependency of customer DAO will be injected over here. And please note a point, my dear friends. Did I start and with the help of this, you know, when I say extend with Mockito extension.class, am I starting the Spring Boot server? Am I starting the Spring Boot server? Come on. Yes or no? Am I starting the Spring Boot server? No, you're not starting the Spring Boot server at all. So I have to provide the mocks. But you know what? How do I tell my framework that the customer service, which is dependent on the DAO or maybe some other dependencies also, you inject the mocks that I have created over here in that customer service by saying inject mocks. So when I say inject mocks, so what is the difference between mock and inject mocks? All with me, friends? What are we discussing? We are discussing what is the difference between inject mocks and mock. Inject mock is as same as mock in the very first place. So what will mock do? It will create an object of this class in memory. What will customer service, what will inject mock do? That will also create a object of this class in memory. But over and above creating an object of this class, it will also inject the dependencies. It will check in the customer service if there are some dependencies in the customer service, right? If there are dependencies in the customer service on some objects, it will check that in the mocking framework, in the runtime environment of that mocking framework, is there an object of the same type? If yes, it will inject the dependency. It will inject the dependency. Now let's see, after doing this, let me once again run this. Again, it's going to fail. Now see this, I'm getting at there. You see this get customers method in customer services executed. See this now. This is what I wanted to show you. So the method is getting executed. Service.get customers method is executing. I'll take a pause here. Do you have any questions, friends? Yes, friends, any questions? This is clear. So this function is getting executed. Yes, sir. Can you please explain difference between mock and inject? Yeah, very simple. I'll explain once again. First of all, this one point, inject mock, whatever mock does, inject mocks does the same thing. And what is that? What is the common thing that they both do? The common thing that both does is it creates the objects. It creates the objects. So inject mock will also create an object of customer service. @mock will also create an object of customer DAO. Is this clear? This one point is clear? Anikendu? Okay. Now the next thing that it does is, but over and above that, @inject mock, or I'll just write inject mock. What is that additional thing it will do? Inject mock will not only create an object of customer service, but also inject the dependencies. Injected dependencies. What does this mean? Customer service. Isn't customer service dependent on customer DAO? Yes. And aren't we creating customer DAO through @mock? Yes. So customer DAO is there in memory. It will inject the dependency of customer DAO into customer service. Or rather, I must say customer service will receive this customer service over here. This variable will receive a reference of the object that is created here with @mock customer DAO. You got it now? The difference. So inject mock will inject the dependencies. Okay. As a thumb rule, well, I will say more often than not, the component that you are testing, I am testing customer service, that will have @inject mocks. Rest everything will be mocks. It's quite possible, right, that this service may be dependent on some other DAO also. Yes or no? This one single service may be dependent on multiple DAOs. So you will have all of those DAOs and all of those other components also @mock, @mock. But only one over here will have @inject mock. So no, that's not mandatory, but usually this is what you do. Typically, this is how you write things. Now it's clear, Anikendu? Any doubts? Okay, good, cool. And you see this get customers is indeed getting executed, my dear friends. This is indeed getting executed. But अभी अपना काम तो नहीं हुआ ना. See, what was it's still incomplete. So this will be tested. All of this code that I have written here, maybe 5 lines of code, maybe 10 lines of code. It's just one line system.out.println, but actually in real life application there may be 3, 4, 5, 10 lines of code. Come on, yes or no? This business logic may have 10 lines of code, isn't it? All of that will get executed. If there is any problem in that, it will be reported in the test case saying that the test case failed. Okay, right? But what about this return value? This is a mocked object. This is not the real DAO. I repeat, this is not the real DAO. This is a mocked object. All there with me? While testing, is customer DAO is really the one that uses the repository, talks to the database and brings the data? Hello. My question is, while running this test case, yeah, correct, because DAO is dependent on the repository is dependent on the database. Agar wo sab chahiye, if you want all of that, then you will have to start Spring Boot container. Come on. And then no isolation and nothing of that sort. What was our principle? What is it that we wanted? We wanted to test a particular component. For example, we wanted to test the functionality of service. So the other components we're going to mock. We're going to just mock those other components. We are not interested in testing the functionality of DAO while testing service. While testing the service, I am not interested in testing the DAO. I will write a different mock test case for DAO, but for service, I am not dependent. Is that clear? You're clear on this point? Right? Okay. So now, but then yes, my test case must succeed. I am expecting, some values out here. In short, whatever value, in short, let me go to the customer service. In short, I wanted to, I hope this point is very clear. I want to test the code, maybe 10 more lines of code. 10 more lines of code, and whatever right from line number 24 to line number 30, will that definitely get tested or not? Come on, yes or no? Will that definitely get tested or not? That will get tested. But abhi ek problem kya hai, that this customer DAO is a mocked object, but this customer DAO in real life will return some or the other value or not? Come on, will return some or the other value. So if all of this is successful, I have written the logic for this, I will be writing the logic for this, I will be, because test driven approach, first I'm going to write this implementation or I'm going to write this test case first. Come on, what am I going to write first? The test case or the service? The test case. So when I write this test case, I want this mock object to return some dummy value, and that dummy value is exactly the mocked values. Those are known as stubs. Repeat, please write. Those are known as stubs, the predefined values, some default values, some dummy values that are returned back by a component while testing your application are known as stubs. Not stubbed, they are known as stubs. Yes, they are known as stubs. So I do want this customer DAO to return a value. Will I go and make some changes here? No, I cannot change this, because this must still be as it is, in future also when I test my test cases. This is a service class, I cannot test this. I mean, I cannot change this. So I go here and what do? I'll write @ before each. What is this before each? Before each, the moment I say before each and I say void init, suppose, this function will execute before each test case is executed. I repeat, this function will be executed before each test case is executed. If you want to check it out, see this, s out, okay, before each, okay, see this. First this will execute and then the test case. See this, before each, and then the test case got executed before each. So this is very clear what is before each. Very simple stuff. Very simple stuff. Now what am I going to do? I'm going to say Mockito, Mr. Mockito dot. I'll say when. What will I do? I'll say when customer DAO, when customer DAO dot get customers, right? And I'll say dot then you go to return a value. What is the value that I'm going to return? I'll say arrays dot as list, and I'll say new. This is the style of writing. Next line, then, okay, array list new customer. You remember there is a constructor of the customer. I'll say IBM, and I can return any dummy value from here, and I'll say address is Mumbai. Address is Mumbai. Okay. List of customer, please. List of customer, right? New customer. Bracket कम ज़्यादा है क्या? New customer array list. Then where am I going wrong? answer iterated before annotated. Yeah, it is annotated, right? Answer is question mark array list of provided as array list of customer. Then okay, I am missing on something. I am missing on something. Then I have to return a value. I have to return a value. I have to return a value. Then answer yes. Answers. Answer. Okay. Customer. Correct. But then how do I return the answer here? I am missing something here. I am missing something here. Can I peep into my one of my applications? Let me check. Let me check. I'm sorry for this. Okay, so I'll say return. This is what I'm sorry about that. Then return, I'll say arrays dot as list, and I'll say new customer 101, and I'll write here Mumbai, and then here I'll write, sorry, this is supposed to be the name, so IBM, and then here I'll write Mumbai. This works like a charm. See this. What does this mean? What does this mean? Whenever while testing this entire thing, I have mocked the customer DAO. So in this, whenever get customers of customer DAO is called, you have to return an array list of the customer objects, and this will be the customer object in the list. I can very well go ahead and create multiple customer objects, isn't it? Comma, and one more customer object. See this? I have one more customer object here. Here like this, you see, and I can have one more customer object here like this. Correct? See, and here I can say instead of IBM, I'll say Wipro. Here I will say JPMC. Here I will say Chennai. Here I'll say Bangalore, like this. See, I have three objects. So what does this mean? Whenever get customers is called in the context of this framework, it is going to return these three objects. Please see. So at least what will happen now is that, now not at least, in fact this is a big thing, get customers is tested from year till year, everything will be executed, but wherever in this entire test case, wherever I have used customer DO.get customers, because this is not real, right? We are mocking it. What will be returned back? Tell me. Will it talk to the database and get the data, or it's going to return back these three objects? Come on, what do you think? It's going to talk to the database and get the data, or it's going to return back this? Correct? Yes. Okay. No, this name of the function doesn't matter. This name of the function doesn't matter. It can be any name. Correct? So three objects, right? Because I have given @ before each, right? This is the annotation that I have given, so this is just perfect. Now let me run this, and here I have said must be greater than 0. So let's see this. Let's see this. Correct? Here you go. It's successful. Come on, friends, take a look. It is successful. And if you want, I can also put an assert here. I can also put an assert. Right? I say customers dot get the first element, or rather the 0th element. Okay, dot, I'll say get name dot equals, what is the name of the second element here? Wipro. I'll say WIPRO, Wipro. Correct? This is what I have. Come on, will this succeed or this will fail? Will this succeed or this will fail? This test case will succeed or fail? Are you sure this will succeed? Why, Sharmila? Why do you say it's going to fail? The 0th element is what? The first object, right? And what is the name of the first object? Bhartiya, this will succeed or fail? Yes, IBM is not equal to Wipro. Correct. So this is going to fail. This is going to fail. Please see. The test case is going to fail. Everything works fantastic, but then the test case is going to fail. You please see this. The test case fails. Right? Assertion fails. Right? And I have given, okay, so here I better give over here the name expected is IBM. Okay, and then I'll get the right message. I'll get that message because this is customers must be greater than 0, the size must be greater than 0. You see, the name must be IBM, but I've given Wipro. Now I change this to IBM. Tell me, will this succeed or fail? Come on, will this succeed or fail? Will this succeed or fail? This is going to succeed, and it succeeds successfully. So can I make a statement here that these lines of code will be thoroughly tested? Yes or no? Come on, will these lines of code be thoroughly tested or not? Yes. This is how you work with mocks, and this is how you work with Mockitos. Now what I want you to do is that I want you to write this code exactly the way I have written here, right? Or in fact, wait a minute. I will give you okay, you first write this code. I don't want to club loads of things together, and see the code that I have written over here, friends. Please see. I want you to write this code, friend. It's okay if you do not put 3 objects, put 1 object, that's fine, and write the test case accordingly. I'm okay with that, but you must write. Here you go. Okay, come on, get started. Yep. So the entire class is visible to you. Don't look at it and then type and word by word. Do not copy. Do not look at this word by word, alt tab, okay, what is it, and then you go. No. Understand things, start doing things all on your own. Let it take 10-15 minutes, no problem. And then if you find, yeah, you're missing a point, then go back and take a look at it. Okay, as I missed the point, it was instead of then, I should have written then return. And there are many other options. You can do wonderful things as I told you earlier, but this steps, this sets up the entire stage for you to do further research work later on. Come on, start doing this. I'll give you 15-20 minutes for this.